Welcome back, everybody. We're going to be continuing learning the 40th chapter, and the 40th chapter out of 54 chapters is very significant because we're going to, in 2 days' time, it's going to be the 3,334 years since the giving of the Torah on Mount Sinai. And then Moses was for 40 days and 40 nights on Mount Sinai, Har Sinai, and he didn't eat. He was fed from the energy from the outside. He didn't need to actually put in physical food inside himself. And at the end of the 40 days, he came down with the tablets, with the luches. So 40 is really significant with what we're going to be learning tonight. And what we're learning is about language, because when we're learning about the high unity, how the emotions really are not an addition to the oneness of God, we learned many metaphor about that in the whole process. Now we're going to learn about we already started learning about the thoughts, speech, and actions of God, and the thoughts are us. Things of the world. We're inside God, like a brain is thinking up ideas and imagining things and imagining. So that is God speaking, and we're being created by that. We're inside him. And the question is, well, how does it work, and how aren't we like an addition to the oneness of God? How is it still that God is totally one? So let's start reading inside. And we can request for Rabbi Smith to pull up the text. Now, what's really significant is that we have the beginning of letters, of Bina, of comprehension, has letters. V'tvuna is application. V'leya, and Leah is audible thought. And I found really fascinating how I was reading in a sefer about the wives of King David, and he had 18. And each of them held a spiritual energy. And they were of different styles, and they would basically would give that together with David HaMelech. They brought down a certain essence of God into the world. And basically his wives comprised of two types of energy. It was the ones of godless and the ones of katnos. That's what it says. So the godless means that they were more thinking type women, and katnos means that they were more speaking type women. And speaking type women are very good at organization and getting people together and connecting with everybody, and the thinking woman is more is like you can notice that is in the education and the teachers, and then there was also a mixture. There's a woman that could have both, but they prefer to be one or the other. In other words, they have both, but they can prefer to be one or the other. So Leah, now there's two sisters, Leah and Rachel. They really capture that divine idea of God. So God thinking is really captured by Leah, larger than life, because she is life for the whole world. She basically is the vehicle expressing this divine idea of God thinking and creating the world. Whereas Rachel is more God speaking and creating the world. The thoughts is the back end. So there's two types of women. One woman is more of a back end type organizer, and another woman is more a front end. Will speak to everybody, meet everybody. And it's interesting to recognize these types of energies. And of course, men can take on these energies as well. But the question is, what do you do most of your day? A man, most of his time, should be bringing down male energy. And sometimes we take on female energy here and there. Now, let's read inside. It's explained in the Zohar in many places, a bunch of places. There's thought and there's thought. There's thought, which the hidden thought, which captures the dreams. Big faces, which is a metaphor for dreams. Like dreams, not as in when you sleep dreams. We mean dreams as in something you would love to achieve. And there's the original thought of the character of the first man. That's even a deeper thought. The character, thought about who should be the character that's going to write that's going to play out the autobiography of God. Adam, all of humanity. Bakai Gavna, and similar ideas that there's thoughts on many different levels. The explanation of the idea of thoughts on many levels, in the Holy Tongue, rotten, wanting is considered a thought. In other words, the language it's used interchangeably. When you want something, it immediately needs to be captured in a thought. When we say God thought, it actually means God wanted. Like it's known, because when you want something, it immediately needs to be captured in thought, in the brain. Because thought is considered a want, and a want is considered a thought. When you say it went up in God's want, it's the same thing as it went up in God's thought. And these, when want is captured by a thought, it's considered a hidden thought. Al Shem Bechinas is like subconscious thought or superconscious thought. Al Shem Bechinas Ahelam Sharatzen, because the superconscious want, the superconscious motivation, Al Ken Machshava Shabei Harotzen Shu Gam Ken Behelam Vestimes. The thought is the want, and the want is hidden. Venikra Machshava Stima, and it's considered a hidden want. Hu Bechinas Esis Harotzen Canal. And this is called letters of want. So in other words, if a person has a motivation, internally that motivation and that hidden motivation is captured by a thought. But it's not the audible thought that we think in our head. It's just a thought that it's like the voice. This original thought, called the original, the first thought, it's even before subconscious thought. So there's a person has a first thought, which then creates subconscious or superconscious thought, and this becomes the source of hidden motivation. A wants to want is hidden motivation. When you want something for real, is one thing. It's a conscious thought, conscious want. But when you have a hidden drive for that thing, it's called rotzen l'rotzen. And behind that, there's even a deeper subconscious, superconscious thought. Behind that is original thought. In thought, this originating want, the original drive, the original one is hidden in thought. Can we go further down the page? Shenik rotzen u'rotzen, v'gam ze bechinas machshava hu shemelubish bei rotzen akadem shekodem l'chol rotzen v'rotzen. As we learned in the 17th chapter, it just has different names, depends on which level of the subconscious we're speaking about. And the same thing applies to the godly conscious. Similar to, we're built in God's image in this way. It's understood through all the high levels, even the original want in the essence of God originates, like we said in Ois Yud in chapter 10, it originates, it's encapsulated by a thought. One second. When a person has a certain urge, a jump to do something, it's not a complicated command. It's basically move. He's saying that really the internal dialogue to capture a want is not the same as the entire internal dialogue for intellect. Let's go further. Let's turn the page. It's not the same internal ach begidi ameach shenikra nervin hadakim, small nerves, beyesa, very small nerves, shemahem kach hatnu of them, they give the power of movement, v'kach hahergesh, and the power to be able to feel things, beivarim, in the limbs, you do it like it's known. Mispashit, from them comes kayach, the power of air and the light. Light basically is a wave, like radio waves, the light, haratzon of the want, gam liyes haivarim nishmaim leratone, that the limbs should listen to what you want. In the brain, for example, to stretch out the hand, viragla, and the foot, or to take the hands and foot in, rak alpi and it actually just arises in the mind suddenly, and then there's an immediate command. So therefore, the internal dialogue has to be very different from a cognitive dialogue. But it basically has a want has a different housing, but it's still housing. There's still some sort of letters which houses that idea. There is different thinking which is through comprehension. Understanding first. This is called cognitive comprehension thinking. Logical thinking. Well, hopefully logical. Any intellectual idea is captured and understood in the left brain. In Yiddish, we call this getting it. It comes in through the brain, analyzing idea, and this is called the thought of the intellect. Can we look? Yeah. This is the power of a intellectual understanding that's able to capture any intellectual idea. It's not about wanting something. And we don't usually call this a want, because it's not really in the nerves. It's in the left brain. It's in the vessels which allow for comprehension, the left brain, and understanding of the intellect, Atma itself. If there's a vessel for the machshava yunis, for the thought which is investigating the concept, deeply looking, delving into a concept, into each any intellectual concept. And this is what we call the implementation of the application brain. Malchus expression of the application brain. In other words, the lowest level of comprehension, in essence, and maybe which allows comprehension and understanding in a separate idea. And now base like we learned in the second chapter, that Tfuna allows us, it was all about Tfuna, about application, that after all the theory, we need to, the brain will come to application. Misham nasakech mashava seichel, and that which really powers our cognitive thought. Because originally the delivery of the idea is even without any investigative thinking. Basically taking and just getting it, right? You got it, you go, oh, you got it, but you really need to, or you got the aha moment, you got it, but you really can't put it into words yet, and it goes to left brain for processing. So in other words, before he even thinks the light of the thinking, the light, we're speaking about like radio waves that move in the speed of light. So basically there's waves in the brain that are even before they start their operation, taking on the clothes of thinking and looking at dying, straight away what happens is when the aha moment gets delivered to the left brain, it now changes language sort of to a cognitive, investigative process of letters. So now we understand Malchus de Tfuna is the expression of application, being really practical. It's higher than Leah, because Leah is already cognitive thought in conscious thought in the brain. It's God thinking. Leah is already God thinking. Like it's known, we always go back to the subject. The big Daled of Hero Israel, the Lord is our God, the Lord is one. Because everything that we've been learning, all these 40 chapters, is to help us fulfill the commandment of connecting everything in the world to the oneness of God. And the way it's spelled in the Torah and the mezuzah and tefillin, it's 3 letters is one, echad is one, and the last letter, the daled, is written like 4 times wider than all the other letters. It's a giant daled. And the reason why it's a giant daled is because anytime we have giant letters in the Torah, it's really referring to those ideas, concepts, the way they are still in a cognitive level. So basically, this is God expressing his comprehension when it's still totally one, and he hasn't actually created audible thought, which will be the world. This ability of the brain to express application, shemachure de'ema, which is in the back of the cognitive brain, shemisham sheres hisavas machshava ba'osyas mamish, that creates thoughts in audible, that creates letters in audible thought that can actually be a deliverable intellectual process. That's Leah. Leah, it's already deliverable. It's so cognitive, the AI system can pick it up. No, just a joke. I'm just bringing that out. Like explained in another place. Bechinas haskola atzma hamusag ba'asoga vavana. Anytime you have a intellectual concept which is understood with comprehension and grasping, and hasoga is grasping, and understanding, gamken nikra machshav, it's all considered thought. אך זהו בחינס הספשטוס, יש דאר החכמה נקרא חשב מה. But it's called Chashev Ma, the Chachma. The ability to the brain to grasp a intellectual idea is called thinking of what? Chashev Ma, of insight. So the insight functions in the left brain and allows you to create definitions. Chashev, thinking, Ma, what? In other words, defining things, because we cannot understand anything unless we have building blocks of definitions. And there's the inner thoughts of Bina, the loy mishtama gamba machshava seichel, which you cannot, it's not heard in the thought of the brain. Lava lakal oisius, it cannot be put into oisius klal at all. And guys, you can be happy that there's something that the AI will never be able to reach. There's certain aspects of being human that the computer can never do, and this is called the Pnimius Bina. And you know how you activate the innermost aspect of your left brain? Through hard work. So that's something that a computer can't do. A computer can't do hard intellectual work, but a human can. And because we can do hard intellectual work, even a less intelligent person that's going to do hard intellectual work, he's going to trigger the Pnimius Bina, the inner cognitive brain, which actually is connected with the vision of the heart, because the heart is able to pick up certain waves and beams and lights which our eyes cannot pick up, and it can get a certain grasp of truth that eyes cannot grasp. So celebrate humanity that we have this ability which cannot be picked up with any censoring system, because it doesn't come off in any thought. We learned this before. This is like the depth of the core concept. It cannot be grasped with the comprehension and thoughts of the left brain, Kai Gavna, and similar things. That's Kai Gavna, similar things, sensors and computers cannot pick this up. I don't know if he had that in mind, but why, what's Kai Gavna? Like anything else cannot grasp it. The inner aspects of the left brain, which is activated when a person puts effort. V'nikra mi delay kaim l'shayla k'meshkos macher v'dal. Me, who? It's not a question that could be asked. In other words, who somebody is, you just got to get it, or you don't. In other words, if you ask a computer, you made a Google search, who is this person? They're going to tell you he did this, he did this, he did this, he did that, he did this, he did that. The Wikipedia, you get the whole page and the controversies and the whole story. But the computer cannot tell you who this person is. It cannot tell you who this is. AI cannot tell you who somebody is. They can just give you a bunch of data points. Only the human is able to say who. After all these data points, they can connect them together. Who? I know who this is. It's not. You can't ask a question about it. Either you get it or you don't. And a computer will never get it. But a human will. So there is a certain hidden thought that comes from want. And there is a thought from the comprehension brain which actually could be put into letters. The machshava of actual machshava mamish, an actual thought, shenikra leah, which that's called leah, and that could be picked up with senses. If you have an audible thought with actual words, which we can agree on what these words mean. So basically, thinking can be on many levels. And there's also this whole process also exists in a motivation of want, which is higher than intellect. There's also some sort of capturing system for that. It's called, there's basically a hidden comprehension brain from the dreams. Dreams not as in sleeping dreams, but as of dreams of achievement. So there is such, people have dreams written in their soul. It's basically a hidden thought in the hidden motivations. Just like there's intellect and there's insight in dreams, which define those dreams, hanelam, which are hidden mikol rayon, from any thought. Maybe we don't even know that we have them. Hanelam v'hu bechinas chachmas tima de'arachanpim. This is called the hidden thought, the hidden wisdom, the hidden insight of our dreams. Hanikra tam kamas l'ratzon is basically, there's a hidden meaning behind why we want things. Significant things. Why is something significant for you? I can't tell you unless I think about it a lot, because it's there, but it needs to be taken down a few levels, few notches before I can put it into letters. Like it's non kach yesh bechinas bina stima. There's also a hidden bina, a hidden mechanism of comprehension that we have on those levels of our superconscious, etc. We see that there's different types of thoughts that we have in our brains. And now, like we've said before, the golui, in a revealed way, we have two different commands in our nerves. It's like a want that's revealed in the mind. And there's a want, which is a hidden motivation that a person has, and it has a place, it has a specific real estate area in the brain. Hashem Helam Shel, which basically, which is, there's a hidden motivation of want that's in the brain, Terem Shabal Hachma Bina, before it comes even into the right and left brain. Umachshava Yunis Shubichinas Yesh the Ain the Chachma, and there is a thinking, comprehension, investigative aspect of the brain, that it's the Yesh the Ain, which is the anything that's tangible from the intangible wisdom. And I need to, can we put the letters a little up? Until something comes into, till it comes to audible thought. As we explained above in the 30th chapter, we explained that the original power that generates letters, the machshava of thought, the core of the soul, mamish, is in the core of the soul itself. That there is a source of the letters of the audible thought of comprehension. It exists in the core of the soul, just like there is energy that's going to fill these vessels, these carrier vessels of this want, which is actually in the nerves of the brain. And similar phenomenon exist in the essence of the soul that eventually end up being in the hardware of the brain. just that one becomes an open want, vezeba, v'chinas gilu yesis debina, the musik, and the other one becomes audible thoughts. In other words, the core of the soul creates two types of letters. One is a command, and the other one is a comprehension. And what we need for comprehension is a flexible letters that can be used to create sentences and paragraphs in the mind. But we also have commands. The same power, it's basically a fork. It's a fork. We have a fork in our brain, not a literal fork, but we have a fork. The soul, the core of the soul, creates mechanisms that will capture things, bytes, packets. And then those packets have to fork. One creates cognitive reasoning, and the other one goes to commands. Right? And the one that goes cognitive reasoning becomes the Bina becomes a left brain letters, which is comprehended and grasped through the comprehension of the intellect. However, we see the whatever a person originally wants in the internal wanting system, that's what comes down and becomes what the brain decides to think about. Because the hidden want comes down by machshava, agulei devina, in comprehensive thought of the left brain. This whole explanation helps us to understand I'm not saying it properly because it's God's name. I will be because I shall be, which I shall be. Basically, Moshe asked God when he met him in a conversational level. God was revealed to him, and Moses asked, like, what name do I give him? Names represent behavior. So what name should I give you? How do I define you? Basically, he was trying to find words. Who is sending me? Who should I tell them is sending me? So they weren't just asking for names. They want to know who and on what, how is he functioning? So he told him, so basically what ended up at the end of the discussion was that, there's the way I am, but there's the way you deliver the message. So what I want to tell you is I'm going to be with you like I'm over here in the future exiles. I'll be with them also in the future exiles. So Moses says, 1 second, I don't want to tell them about future exiles. They're dealing with this one right now. It's going to make them sad that I'm going to inform them of future exiles. So God said, no, I want to, that's not what you tell them, because that's not what they're ready for, but that's what I'm telling you. So I'm the eternal God. That's what Ekya, I will be. I'm internal. I'm going to be always with them.
Are you saying internal or eternal?
Eternal, sorry, eternal. Eternal. I'm an eternal God. Because Moses was saying again, let's deal with one problem at a time, basically. It's enough one pain at the time. People sometimes are worried about a future, the next release, right? Or the economic problems. Now, some of them are eventually, some of them are happening, but not necessarily the way we thought they're going to happen. And truth, you need to take protective steps, but you don't really know which protective step to take. So let's not over worry about theoretical situations. In other words, deal with the issues that we need to deal with right now and take some protective steps, but you don't really know. You don't need to overdo those protective steps because you don't know how things will actually eventuate. Deal with what is now. So how is this connected with what we're saying? We're saying that Ekia is the name of God which is connected with Keser, which is the driver. And he's saying that, Moses, you're asking me how you should present me to the people, and I'm the one that's taking them out. So you have to present me as the eternal God, because that's the highest way of presenting me, and it's spelled Aleph and Hey and Yud and Hey. I will be. That's how you need to present me, because I'm going to be at that level. It's fluid. Everything's possible. These Galus Kesar Klali, it's basically the revelation of the general driver for all drives, the Arachanpin of the dreams, the Kesar Prati, Shubabina, in the specific driver of comprehension, is in comprehension. Kidua, like it's known. Muvura B'Makamach explain another place. So he's saying something really, really, really interesting. You can never really grasp the Kesser, the crown. You can never really grasp me. But there is a back door, which I'm letting you know. And the back door to grasping me is through your comprehension brain. And specifically, when you use that to your maximum capacity, you will be able to grasp me. You will be able to come to the crown. Even a less intelligent person, it doesn't matter your IQ. It matters that you max out your brain. That's what matters. And then you can connect to the moment. So more than one person at varying IQs can come up with inventions because they can have a connection to God, a connection to truth through their left brain. Humans realize there's a way to capture God. What is the path to God? You have a path to capturing God through the left brain, through the comprehension brain, through putting effort in your left brain, maxing out your left brain, and the doors will open to Keser. That's actually the deepest pleasure, human pleasure, because pleasure is really a staple that God's telling you that you're onto something. The Eber Levi who, okay, so this is explained in another place regarding the servant, the Levi, and I don't know what it says over there. Who his galus alidei, who the his galus atigimim, but I guess it speaks about over there that the revelation of atigimim of the disconnected days. It's like the holiday. Babina is specifically through comprehension. Dafka specifically through comprehension. The way to get to the highest levels, atikemim, the high, is through comprehension. And by the way, when you write the smallest letter, yud is like a yad, which is like a hand, so it looks like a hand, and it has three pointy parts. It has a foot, which on the right side, which represents the idea that when you get the point, you got to like take it down. You got to deliver. And then there's, where does the point come from? There's a spiky point on the top left corner showing the point comes from the connection of truth, from the crown, from Keser. And then there's there's a left point on the left corner, which is not as long as the right corner, and it's about has to be, I mean, I guess it has to be practical, it has to be delivered. Maybe that's what the third point is about, etc. Okay, the commercial cost of, let's turn the page. And all this is explained in another place. Vidal, and what we said till now is enough for the understanding person. So think about it. Use your comprehension, and you will connect up to the truth. And also, the deepest pleasures are really there. It's not, there's no physical substance that can get you, and no meditation that can get you to the crown, to Arche Anpin, besides hard work with the left brain. It's just got to be that way. And you also have to think practically. So both ways, you have to think very abstract, and then you have to say, well, how does this apply in a practical world? And that forces you to even get a deeper grasp, a deeper handle onto what it's all about. So how is this connected with the holiday of the giving of commemorating the giving of the Torah 3,334 years ago? In 2 days' time, you should stay up and say the Tikkun Leil Shavuos. How is this connected? Is because that God gave us the Torah, and we need to use our left brain, our cognitive powers, and we will be able to connect up to the highest levels through using that brain, maxing it out. Study every day and don't miss a day. Say the words of Torah, comprehend them, and doors will open for you. A good Shabbos, good Yom Tov, everybody.